How many people work in IT in this room? Can you raise your hand? All right. How many people work in marketing in here? Okay. So that's a good mix. Now, for the people that said they work in marketing, what kind of things, what kind of tools do you use? Can you just shout some names? AdWords, yeah. Google Analytics, yeah. Newsletter tools, yeah. Okay, and then for the people that work in IT, when you raised your hand, what type of, do you do any type of marketing? Do you do any tool, do you use any tools for marketing, or do you do any tool, do you build any tools that do marketing? So there's, surprisingly, there's a lot of marketers that have to use a lot of tools, so that's what my presentation will be about. So to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm from Cluj, I'm born in Cluj right here, and I live in Toronto, Canada. So as I bought my ticket with my credit card online to come here, there was a perfect opportunity for my bank to offer me travel insurance. But the bank never offered me any travel insurance, even though I bought the plane ticket with their credit card, right? Instead, I always get these emails from the bank about different mortgage rates, but then they fail to recognize the fact that I already have a mortgage and I don't need those rates. Also, every time when I'm applying for something at the bank makes me fill out these very long forms with requiring a lot of information that they already know about me. So you can see how frustrating that is. So in reality, in order to create a good customer experience, there's a lot of problems that have to be overcome. There's a lot of different tools that have to be used, a lot of tools that have to work together. There's a lot of people that work in different departments, and there's a lot of different skill sets that come into play. So what happens these days is the marketer's job becomes more and more dependent on technology, and it's up to the marketer to use this technology to empower themselves. It's actually technical capabilities have to be used by marketing departments, both strategy and tactics, and that's what I want to inspire you to do. I want to inspire you to create this magic that Sir Arthur Clarke talks about. Over the past 6 years, there's been an explosion of marketing technologies. Scott Brinker actually has a blog called The Chief Marketing Technologist, and he's been tracking since 2011 officially all the marketing technologies in this logo landscape. And over the years, you can see here that they actually doubled in some cases. And for example, since last year, it actually comes to like 6 per business day. There's 6 new tools that come every day of the week, of the business week. There's also a statistic from Gartner, a research firm, that says that the chief marketing officer has to use, has money to spend almost as much as the chief information officer. So you can imagine what that creates and why so many different tools come to the marketplace. And so we can take a closer look at the logo landscape here. We can actually, why don't we go in and zoom in over here? Can you see now a little bit better? Let's try to zoom in a little bit more. Okay, how about now? So how many of you are familiar with like some of this and some of this and some of this? Yeah, those are a few. Yeah. Yeah, so just to give you an example, let's say you're on social media and you find a link to an event, you go there to the page, you get tracked by Google Analytics, and then you submit a form over here, and then it's a WordPress form that brings you to a marketing database, which was somewhere over here, and then you get an email from over here, and then you get tracked in that email, and then you end up in a customer relationship management system, and then you get a call, and then maybe you buy something, right? So think about all those things. Yeah, that's the magic. Yeah, that's the magic. So in reality, it's not that easy to make all that work. There's also a big difference between what companies need to do and what strategies they need to build with the tools and the data they have, and what people in the job market actually think they're doing. Right? The companies need to enable themselves with the data, with the tools, but they think that they need new strategies, but actually they just need somebody to make sense of the data they already have through all these tools that they're using. There's another paradigm that is shifting right now is the move to freelance work. Are you guys familiar with Upwork, which is an freelancing and that's one of those. So they say that in the US, the majority of people will be freelancers in the next 10 years. The notion of the 9-to-5 job, it's actually from the Industrial Revolution, and in history we can look back in the future and say that it was just an experiment for a few decades. Our whole work can happen in a community where we don't live, so that's possible. Now, I don't think it's going to happen as quickly as we think, or as quickly as we would like to, because because the whole work infrastructure is built to support these 9-to-5 jobs, but it's something to keep an eye on.
And in some countries, like in Romania, they don't have the legislation. I think they passed recently a legislation here that legalizes or gives a legal form to the remote work. I think I saw something like that.
Yeah, they passed something like if an employee works from home, he has some legal rights as well. And also if they have some.
But it was like last week or something like that.
Yeah, it's very recent. Yeah. And actually doesn't compete with everything, because it's only for the employers in Romania. So they didn't check all the employees.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, so the modern marketer needs to think both in a scientific way. He also needs to think strategy, and it also needs to think art. So these are all basically the marketer needs to think like the IT person, and the IT person needs to. It's a lot of IT people that build things for marketers. You see what's happening? It's totally a different skill set that is required for you to.
But I'm curious, out of the 150 initial tools in 2011, how many survived till nowadays, or were they replaced?
Well, there's more and more money spent on this by companies, and there's also a lot of companies buying other companies. But even though that's happening, it's even though there's a lot of this consolidation happening, it's still an explosion of new widgets or solutions that do something.
Some of them must die along the way also.
Well, for example, in the States, what's happening, there's a lot of money that goes into all kind of startups, but the startups are not necessarily profitable for a long time. They're just focused on customer acquisition, which means that they're losing money, but they're just burning all this money from investors, but their goal is just to acquire customers, become the #1 source of information, and maybe they're bought by another company, and so on. So it's still yet to be seen what will happen in the marketplace for this. But going back to this slide, think about what it takes to have a nicely formatted email that looks good on mobile, that looks good on my tablet, on my PC as well, and to get it at the right time, at the right moment, with the right message, right? Like how many of those things have to come together to do that. So that's what like the marketing technologist's job would be. Today, we have access to the most free education we ever had in the history of civilization. So right now, you can go home and you can access all these free tools. So I strongly encourage you to do that. There's universities, top universities in the world that are offering free courses online. So somebody in the slums of India with a simple internet connection can access courses from the MIT University. There's platforms for learning. There's coding schools. Actually, there's a nice quote that says that the world will be a much better place if more people will learn how to code. And there's also software vendors like Microsoft, Oracle, Salesforce, Marketo, HubSpot, Acta, we have them right here, that they offer their own training as well for the tools, and all of this is free and available for you to use. Have you guys used any of these tools?
Yes.
What have you used then? What do you think? Sorry, which one? Can you repeat that, please? Udacity, okay. Code Academy. Coursera, yeah. Linda. Yeah, that's possible. So how do you guys find them?
Great for self-starters, but if you want to know more, you really gotta search for higher sources of information. I mean, from an entry level standpoint, they're just right.
Yeah, very, very good point. Now I'll get back to that point. There's another slide for that as well. So what's interesting here, all the software vendors, they also create their own education. And what's interesting thing that's happening, the software vendors, they use education as the marketing vehicle themselves. Are you guys familiar? So this is an Eventbrite. It's an event management tool. So I see some people nodding heads. So what they do is they create a resource center where they teach you how to use their technology with real frequency technology. And you can actually request their services to do that. They also teach you how to advertise on Facebook to your event, and of course how that ties into their technology as well. So you see what they're doing? The software vendor, things become so complex that the software vendor needs to teach you how to use the technology and what you can do with the technology. So an event marketing manager will come here and will try to educate themselves on what they can do in there to make their job better and faster and more efficient.
And actually, because in competition with what you said, using Marketo, they have also a community. So beside the university itself, they have a community where you will find that IT people are also communicating with marketing people because they have different issues. So they might code something, they might need some coding in the system, they might need some customization doing for their needs. So going further, they offer even the community side of the tool, where they can actually communicate forums if you know.
That's a very good example. It's where users answers each other's questions. And that's a very efficient way to solve some support tickets, for example. So things that support might not be able to answer, the community might be able to offer you some solutions to your problems. So communities become very popular as well.
But I think the interesting thing is that IT people speak with
Right.
Or you do take a language class on Duolingo, and there are also people from the community who answer questions. But I think the interesting stuff is like IT people actually talking with marketing people. That's interesting.
Yeah, especially if they are building software for the marketers, and the marketers are the users. Like right now, and the softwares can be so complex that things they used to be able to do with code, now you'll be able to do to visual workflows and drag and drop elements. Another interesting example here is Yesware. This is like a Gmail plugin, so an Outlook plugin as well. So it allows you to create templates and allows you to schedule emails. So what they do, part of their blog and part of their marketing, they become sales trainers. So they educate users on how they can be more efficient at sales using their email template tool. That's a very smart thing, a very smart marketing technique as well. So going back to your point that you mentioned that it's up to you to do the online training. You find something interesting, you start studying online, but then this is at the core of everything. Your hands-on practice, right?
For sure.
So and then there's certifications, there's exams, there's everything that's available there for you, but you have to learn how to learn. You have to learn how to put all this into practice. There's also a statistic that says that you will be changing jobs 3 or 5 times throughout your life, especially a younger generation. And this is all fueled by the technologies that we use. So it's probably not so important as this particular things that you learn, but how you learn how to learn and unlearn and learn new things in the future. Maybe that's the core skill that you should be focusing on. These are just some of the future trends which are happening. I've already talked about the future of work, the move towards freelancer. There's also the idea of omni-channel, right? You want, as a consumer, you demand to have your message, the same message on an SMS, in an email, and on your website, right? Like you want your bank to give you the same rate in every message, in every communication, right? Because if you have that expectations, if you don't get that, then you immediately lose trust in your bank, in this provider, right? There's the idea of cloud. Now, this has been around for a while now, where you use software as a service. You don't need to have the data, you don't need to have the software. You just go to a website and you access the software. You access data on somebody else's servers, and they take care of all the maintenance for that, right? Are you guys familiar with blockchain?
Yeah.
So if you don't know blockchain, you should go home and spend a whole day learning what blockchain is. It's probably the most promising out of all. The way Wikipedia is for history, blockchain is for data. So basically, you have these distributed computers, and people then agree on what data is what. And that's how you're able to do things like cryptocurrencies, and you lose you lose all these third-party intermediaries, you lose government agencies or banks or anybody else that needs to keep track of how much money who has, or who has the rights to something. So that's huge, blockchain. Gamification, it seems like the whole world is moving to this huge gamification where you spend your whole career getting degrees and specializations, and you advance to different levels, and you go on leaderboards, and you compare yourself with others, and it's like you get points using your credit card, and that you get a credit rating. It seems like we're all in just this big game, and it's amazing how well this motivates us.
And you can get a free backpack if you have enough miles with Lufthansa or something.
There you go. You just can't wait to get that free backpack. Of course.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice photo frame.
Yeah, and then there's still big companies and governments that are still moving towards this digital transformation. So there's a lot of space. It's very interesting to see how all of this will play out. So, well, feel free to contact me. That's me, and I'm going to continue to use my credit card as much as possible. Give all this data to the bank, and hopefully some marketing technologist is going to send me the right discount. Well, so yeah, I'm very curious to know what you guys think.
Is there a formula for the right mix of skills, like how much of an artist and how much of an analyst and how much of what should we be? Certain people or
Well, I think the landscape is so big that it's hard to be you to have a formula of what you should be. You should be what.
everybody wants tips and tricks. So give us a shortcut. We are here for that.
I don't think there's an easy button that you can just press and will get you there. Well, people have different skill set, like you were saying. You know, just to have the right email format that correctly go out in the right time to the right people. It's already so many different skill sets that have to happen. And you know, maybe this is not. There's some marketing technologists who do this, but you know, not everybody can specialize in everything, right? It's still a team effort. We're still moving towards, you know, having an agency or a solution consultant, somebody who who puts all these bits and pieces together.
What's your background? I mean, how did you come up to found this company? What made you actually invest time in doing it?
I studied business and IT, a combination of both, and I just realized that you have to marry them together. They're more and more dependent on these technologies. Companies need a marketing technology resource. They need to somehow make this work. So it's inevitable. I just realized that, you know, your life is much better off if you're enabled by technology. You know, you have a better life if you can get somewhere faster, do something more efficient, because you have free time for other things. And you don't want to be stuck just trying to make some tools work and get frustrated and don't get anywhere. Like somebody needs to be the wizard that makes all this work, the magic that I was talking about. Yeah, well, call it scientist, call it artist, call it magician, right? That was my. That was the quote.
Do you work with companies that find it hard to accommodate to the new technologies? Marketing people?
Yeah, there's a trend. There's marketers become more data driven. They have to become more data driven. That's the only way they can survive. But I don't think it's happening as fast as we would like it to. I think there's still a lot of people that are in all kind of in big marketing jobs that are just not taking this risk, are just not paying enough attention to how they can enable their organizations with all the tools and all the digital technologies. And on the other hand, the digital technology is advancing so fast that you have a hard time keeping up with what's new. And there's an explosion of what's new.
Or maybe you are just a technology hopper and you just want to experiment. What's this? What does this button do?
Yeah, that's right. The marketing departments need to have technology at the core of their strategy and tactics.
Do you see a shaping of the future marketing department? Given the fact that you are mentioning the chief marketing officer and
Yeah, I'm a strong believer in the chief marketing officer.
do you see like new roles and to a marketing department, or maybe fusion with some other departments, or maybe total?
There's a lot of chief marketing officers who come from engineering or computer science background. And
Those must be the people talking to themselves on that forum.
Well, there are some examples of that. I think there were some interesting articles too in Fortune magazine about it too.
When they decide upon adopting a technology, so we have different, from big companies to smaller ones, medium to smaller ones, but when they decide what type of technology they adopt, what are the main characteristics that they're searching for? So what makes them take the decision that I want this one, and this one?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, for example, a chief marketing officer has to decide what's in their arsenal of tools. They need to decide, what current tools they have, how the new tools integrate with the tools they have. They have to establish timeframes, the implementations. They have to decide whether that's something you can do internally, or do you need a third party, consultants to do that. And who is the right person to help you do that, to guide you? What are the phases of adopting? What other resources do you have? What would you choose to do internally? What do you choose to outsource? You will have to see which features do you need today, which features do you need in the future.
So I figure that somehow they need to involve other departments as well. So I'm having a technological, I've worked in market a lot, so that's why I'm going to give, which is a marketing automation system. I'm going to give this as an example. I will involve the IT team. Will I involve the sales team? From the IT team, will they need to know what I do as a marketer as well? Because they will need to see what my needs are when taking some kind of system. As an IT person, I need to see if I need to integrate with something within my company, like a database, an SQL database or something like that. So what is the involvement from every department, how this logistics should work somehow?
Well, it's a close collaboration between the IT department and the marketing department. It certainly is. So that's how I see like this marketing technologists. They fill this role where they bring together on one side things like branding, things like events, things like creative, and they match it with things like the databases you mentioned.
Yeah, but I think this has to do with how clear the strategy of the company is, because I've seen also unfortunate cases in which the marketing department works the magic and organizes the summer and Christmas party, but they are like the Cinderella of the departments, and maybe they don't have access to their own internal resources as the IT department, which is unfortunate, and it shouldn't be like that. And I think maybe another thing I wanted to add, I saw their B2B, and I still have something rolling in the back of my mind. What about business to customer? How about, is it different?
Well,
What should
it's
be
like my example of the credit card, right? I keep using my credit card to buy airline tickets, and I'm expecting my bank to give me a discount on this. So I am, I'm still not having the customer experience that I would like to have in this, technology advanced world that we have. It's not as easy as you think to make all this work. No, I understand them. It's not as easy for them.
And also, I've seen, I think, the newest buzzword, I think maybe I used it wrong or something, but the newest thing I saw was not business to business or business to client, just human to human. What about that? Which way?
Yeah, it is us, people to people. Yeah, we only have to use technology as a tool to enable ourselves to build better relationships between us. Yeah, I believe in that. Now, whether do you want to call it, or we want to think about it as a concept or as a buzzword. Yeah, I don't know, but ultimately everything what we do is for our is to work better with other people.
Do you think the adoption happens differently in the United States from other parts of the world?
I think education is different in different parts of the world, unfortunately. I think There's some parts of the world where there's more money to be spent on marketing technologies than other parts of the world. So then that also creates different target markets. So if you have something, a lot of people want to sell it to the United States because there's more money there. So that it's a vicious cycle. More money creates more demand, creates more education, creates more resources.
So you still think that here it needs more education on the educational side to see the importance of the technology when communicating with the client? To see the importance of this tools?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of room for improvement here in Romania as well about some things that we could be doing with marketing technologies. But I'm happy to see things like Cluj Hub here, where we're trying to always look for the new thing. That's right, human to human. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really enjoyed the conversations and all the questions that you guys have. I think this has been great.
That's a misleading code from what you invented, like a satellite or telecommunication satellite or something, no?
He was a science fiction author. He wrote the 2001 Space Odyssey.
Amongst other things, he was also a documentary or TV presenter.
Mm-hmm.
He had a documentary with the crystal skulls back in the day.
Well, thank you guys. I'll be right here available to talk, and happy to chat with everyone. Yeah, thanks guys. It's been a great audience.